Hello, this is Valerie Aiello, and you're listening to Idea Diary. Thanks for coming back to my office and hanging out. Today, I wanted to talk about personal branding as a creative outlet, and I have 10 points. Hopefully, it makes sense. This is something that I would like to make a newsletter about in some way, but I was having some unnecessary roadblocks, distractions, and I thought, well, maybe if I just do an episode, then I can maybe listen to the episode and write my newsletter on LinkedIn about this topic. So here we go. Number one, being remembered. I think it's very important to be remembered in a way where you were not necessarily controlling the narrative, but definitely putting all the highlights in, putting all the good stuff that you want to be remembered for, because maybe while it's happening, people might not think it's very exciting, or it might not seem really important as it's happening. However, once you're gone, once you are being remembered, it might be fun to look back and see those small things as cute, as something that was worth being remembered. And luckily, you put it into your personal branding to where people can recognize it and love it and remember it. I'm sure there's things about my great grandmother, who I never met, that I would love to know all those small things that she did that were tricks and tips and anything that was just cute and cool. And, she had a job, and, what was it like for her to go to work every day? And, just little things that would be fun to remember. I think now with technology, using our personal brand as a creative outlet, you can kind of capture those moments about yourself and share with people now. Even if people aren't watching now, they might watch later. So, being remembered is the number one in the list of 10 things to start using your personal brand as a creative outlet. As in, don't worry about the business part so much. Just kind of experiment, see what you can do. You can be perfect, but you also can just not do it for any other reason other than to be creative. All right, number two, document growth. I think documenting your own growth for yourself, documenting your own notes, that's what I'm doing here with my show. If I'm learning something, I'm sharing something. Ultimately, I'm more of a highlight reel person than an oversharer of the doom and gloom, which both exist. However, I'm getting better with the oversharing in a good way. Okay, number 3 is to practice your chops. Whether you're doing visual, using video, whether you are painting, using art, making collages, doing those memory books where you're collecting little things and making a whole book, and you're just visually and artistically and in photographs and in art kind of displaying your life in a book. That's amazing. Maybe you're songwriting. Maybe you're a writer. Maybe you're writing books, fiction and nonfiction. Maybe you're just doing podcast in an audio format like that. Whatever your artistic skill is, practicing your chops, building your personal brand. If you're going to maybe sell your art in some way, or maybe you just want to be an artist, sharing your art is part of the process. So using your personal brand, sharing your art, practicing your chops while you're building your brand, I think is amazing thing, which also documents your growth. And also your art is how you're going to be remembered someday. Okay, number 4, creating and not just consuming. I think Gary Vee is a good example where he talks a lot about, like, don't be down on yourself for watching TikTok for 10 hours or watching Netflix for a weekend. When you're consuming your content, you're learning. I think we all know, for that kind of brain where we're really not watching stuff to escape, we're watching stuff to learn and grow. Don't feel bad about consuming. However, also be creating. Don't just consume and look at everyone else doing what you would like to be doing, you can put yourself in the game, get in there and start creating. Even if it's cringy at first, everyone sucks at first. You gotta get on stage and suck a little bit. And then one day you don't suck. You suck a little less. And you just keep growing and growing. You're contributing to the art in the world. There's always room for more art. It's not oversaturated. You're not too late. You can do it. When you're building a personal brand and just doing it in a creative outlet way, create. No fear. Do not have fear of cringe because it doesn't matter. You got to do it. You will get better. All right. Number 5 is real self versus ideal self. I had an episode about that, which I will put up in the tags. However people do that. I know that it's possible. I don't know if I've ever tagged anything. You got to learn about the Carl Rogers thing, where is your ideal self versus your real self. So it's a therapy analyst where you are comparing your ideal self to your reality, and you got to work on making sure you're living a fulfilled life, and you don't want to constantly feel bad. So I'm just to make the video short. I'm gonna send you off to that other video or just go on YouTube and search ideal self versus real self. And it's a Carl Rogers thing. Definitely check that out. Ultimately, it's becoming who you are, working on it, using your personal brand. You're showing off your results, even if they're like tiny and small, even if you're maybe only showing certain results, that's fine. Just kind of doing it and sharing, I think, is really important. Number 6, rejection doesn't exist. When we're thinking about feeling cringy because we're afraid to overshare something, or afraid of being cringy because we're afraid that it's like everything is perfect and we're just showing all of those elements, and you're kind of being a little fake. I think all that thing inside our head that tells us, okay, that's enough, stop, I think is important. But there's also the thing that is keeping you safe inside, to where it doesn't want you to change. It doesn't want you to do anything. It doesn't want you to it doesn't want you to have rejection, because rejection could be pain. It's trying to keep you safe, and you have to ignore it sometimes to just try, because actually people don't really care. They don't give a what. And if you just worry about rejection, it's not going to help you as much as you think it does, where it's like keeping you safe and not weird. Sometimes you got to be a little bit weird. You have to be a little different. You have to show off some of the things you think maybe might not be so cool. I like to think about if we're living in the Matrix and this is a simulation and we are actually in control of a lot more than we are allowing our brains to guide us and control us. If, in fact, we are in a simulation and no one else exists, why are we worried about the rejection? Also, rejection kind of can fuel the fire. I know it's weird, but when I go to shows and I see bands that suck, that aren't so great, that gives me tons of motivation, because I think they're up there doing it and they're no good. Why can't I get up there and do it? I can do it. I can at least be better than that band, which made me sound like a weird, mean thing to say. It fuels me with so much inspiration when I see people that aren't that good doing it, because I feel like, wow, I just feel really impressed by that, because they're not trying to be perfect. Maybe they are in their own minds or something, but it doesn't matter. Your experience outweighs the rejection. That was number 6. Number 7 is accepting yourself to become who you are, which is basically don't be afraid to be weird. If you can get over the rejection part and being looked at like you're an insane person, go for it. Like, keep going. Keep being yourself. I think a lot of people, maybe on social media, want to niche down and they only want to talk about fishing or business, marketing, or drawing, or something very specific. And then they kind of get burnt out on that. And now the new trend is don't niche. Maybe find like 3 or 4 things that people can relate to you with. If you're a lawyer, you're also, maybe into travel, maybe you're into coffee, maybe you're into photography. You can combine all those things and still be like the lawyer, coffee, photographer. And it's fun now that we're getting more used to personal branding and seeing people online and kind of going along with their journey. It's not so bad to add in a million things. And even if it's confusing at first, at some point it might not be. So I see a lot of people quitting YouTube, just getting so upset that they work so hard and they're getting burnt out. Just take a break, take a whole year, come back, do something totally different. Do talking head videos if you're sick of doing vlogging and editing for hours. Your audience may reject it. However, if you're just being who you are, I think a lot of people will just be inspired by that. And maybe in their own lives, they might not go down that path and stress themselves out with being in one thing and niching so hard that they can't escape and then turning something that they love into something that gives them anxiety. Accepting yourself and showing off without worrying about it and just personal branding yourself, creating, sharing, and just doing it as a creative outlet is 100% fine. And if you are in that place where you are maybe struggling with money and your personal brand is like all your income, diversify and maybe figure out a way where you can take chances and can do the unusual things that maybe you're thinking about with your personal brand and just think of it as a creative outlet and that's it. And make money some other way for the meantime, if that's something you need. However, I do feel if you are making money with a personal brand, you're probably pretty good with making money in really creative ways. So it's probably pretty easy for you to figure out something else and do some experimenting, take some chances, improv some things. You can always go back to where you were before. That's my new theme for 2024 is don't be afraid to change because even if things get crazy or things get uncomfortable and you hate it, you can always go back to where you were. It's much harder to go up. Sometimes people fall. Once you fall, you can build yourself back up to that medium even spot where things are kind of comfortable enough. All right, number 8 is don't try. I know that we all want things and when we try really hard, things work out and you get the success and things kind of unfold and everything's perfect. And I've just noticed the times in my life when I was getting what I wanted and it was effortless and everything seemed to be flowing. I wasn't really trying so hard that it was painful. I was trying and I was doing things, but things did kind of unfold where I was seeing success and having amazing things happen. Whereas I have had times when I was equally, if not trying harder, and things were just door slam, door slam, door slam. Nothing was going right. Couldn't make one thing be successful. I've had both ways, and I realized now that I'm older is that trying hard doesn't necessarily mean success. Sometimes things unfold and things are easy. And that's not to say that you don't deserve it. It's just to say, maybe weigh out the benefits from trying hard and feeling like crap and being unsuccessful versus how can I do this differently? How can I maybe take a break? Maybe figure out some different angles to approach something to where you're not making yourself feel like crap because trying and succeeding feels amazing. Trying and not succeeding feels awful. And you are not a loser. Just sometimes it's not the right place at the right time. And sometimes you got to back burner things. And the back burner things can come to the front burner. Sometimes you've got to switch it up. Maybe your approach is wrong. Anyways, don't try when it comes to personal branding as a creative outlet because when you're doing something creatively, there's no rules, there's no wrong. Let that go. Just create and do what feels natural and do what feels fun. If part of your personal brand is jumping out of helicopters, that's pretty hard. You got to learn how to pay for the helicopter or pay for the trip there's certain things that maybe your personal brand creative outlet is actually hard and it actually has to things have to unfold in a certain way. That's not what I'm talking about. You can make your creative medium as intricate and crazy as you want. At the same time, maybe have some simple versions to where you're succeeding and feeling good about creating at some level while you're building up to the motion picture. Maybe make 5-minute short films on TikTok. Then work your way up to a high quality film set with peers and stuff like that. The thing that's inside you, I feel like you can create right now. You can get something done. You can feel good and you can share it without trying. There's something inside you that is just natural and fun. So figure out the easy, natural thing while you're working on the hard stuff. Number 9 is don't worry about rewards. Just accept where you are today. I guess it's a little bit of the gratitude thing where what's making you personally happy today, there could be like a whole lot of horrible stuff going on, and you might not be happy at all. And it could be just horrible, but there are some things good. When you have your medium of choice and you're showing off yourself as a personal brand in a creative outlet way, not in a business way, there's no reward for it except for you yourself are having fun, like maybe going and rewatching your video, or maybe going and listening to that podcast, or maybe hanging that picture on your wall and looking at it every day, or painting, or whatever, or your photography book that you made that no one cares about, but you made a photography book and it's for sale for $89 self-published. There's just things that you can do that the only reward is just actually having it done and personal happiness. So get to it, start creating. The number 10 thing, the last thing for using your personal brand as a creative outlet, because we all have a personal brand. It's just whether or not you're going to use it or not. You might as well use it because all the tools are pretty much free online to create and do something. Number 10 is to make an impact just by inspiring one person, because if one person thinks you're cool, then they're gonna remember you, they're gonna think about you, and they're gonna be inspired by you to create their own creative outlet. Whatever it is, if you're sharing, somebody some way is gonna come across it and be inspired and create. And they might steal. But there's certain things where you feel like, I think I've inspired someone too much, and that's great, but then they don't give me credit. Or all the people that are having their stuff stolen by online websites, all the artists, they'll make something, they'll make a t-shirt, they'll put it on Redbubble or something, and all of a sudden it's in like a major company's clothing line and they don't credit you. They make their stuff in China, so there's no way to actually sue anyone. Anyway, that is going off on a tangent. Basically, using your personal brand as a creative outlet. Those are my 10 points and 10 things to hopefully inspire you to go and start working on your own. It doesn't have to be for a business. It could just be like, this is my personal brand today as a 20-year-old. And you work on it. And when you're 30, you might be able to like create that and mold it and shape it into a business of some kind. Or you could be the best, whatever it is that you want to be. Your decade-long experience of building your personal brand online gives you better jobs and better opportunities and la-di-da-di-da, like whatever it could do. You really don't know what it could possibly do, but even if it's just for your own personal happiness and your own reward for feeling like you've achieved something, if no one cares, at least you're going to remember yourself. I think it's very important and an awesome thing to work on and start doing. Even if you're 70 is a great time. I follow a lot of 70-year-olds on TikTok or YouTube, and I love hearing their stories and their tips and how they put on makeup now and their befores and afters, and just there's not an age to where you're not interesting. So get to it. I guess that is the show for today, and I really appreciate you hanging out with me.